Warm greetings and welcome to everyone. I hope you are safe and in good health as you join us for yet another interesting webinar. My name is Kanchi Batra and it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome all the speakers and attendees on behalf of our publisher, Ms. Linda Braden-Hawk. We are very pleased to organize this expert webinar and a special report release on Slovenia at 30 and its upcoming EU Presidency, in collaboration with the Embassy of Slovenia to India, powered by Sensum, co-powered by Medex. Thank you for your support. Allow me to also welcome Bossio, ICRA Emika India Private Limited, and GV Pharma for coming on board and supporting this initiative. We value all our partners and look forward to continued partnership. This webinar could not have come at a more opportune time. Last Friday, on 25th June, Slovenia marked 30 years of independence. But the history of Slovenians as a nation is considerably longer than the history of independent Slovenia. On 1st July, Slovenia is all set to assume the 6 months rotating EU presidency. For Slovenia, it will be their second presidency of the Council of the European Union. At the Diplomatist, we connect, network, educate, and raise awareness of our partner institutions. So now, without further ado, I'm going to release the special document on Slovenia. So now, when our editorial board started working on this report, we were actually mesmerized by the diversity of this little hidden green gem in the heart of Europe. Looking at the visuals, I believe it will encourage you also to plan a trip to Slovenia. I'm sure our readers would find interesting opportunities for doing business in Slovenia. This report is also focused on cooperation between Slovenia and India in various fields and also on the enormous potential that remains to be tapped. Slovenia also offers a stable business environment with a well-developed infrastructure and a well-educated workforce, and it is a part of the huge European single market. This is something acknowledged by an increasingly number of foreign companies setting up business in Slovenia. This publication presents a broad overview of the bilateral economic cooperation between Slovenia and India, and we are confident that it will help create further awareness and help to forge some high-level partnerships to further develop and strengthen our mutually beneficial bilateral economic ties. We will be sending the hard copies and e-copies to all concerned. I sincerely hope that this event will deliberate and discuss all the different aspects of this exciting country, and the speakers will take advantage of this opportunity to come up with valuable recommendations and conclusions that will be beneficial to both the countries. Unfortunately, Ambassador Namrata Kumar, Indian Ambassador to Slovenia, will not be able to join us live today. Something urgent has come up. It's an important meeting at the minister's level. But she has sent her best wishes to the success of this webinar. Now it is time to introduce our chair, Ambassador Sreenivasan, who has served in the Indian Foreign Service for 37 years. He is former ambassador and permanent representative of India to the United Nations, Vienna, and governor for India of the International Atomic Energy Agency and ambassador to Austria and Slovenia. Ambassador Sreenivasan, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to an open and constructive dialogue and wish you a most successful webinar. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Kanchi, for not only inviting me, but also to chair this session, which is like somebody asking for a flower and getting a garden instead. When I heard about the seminar, I suggested to you that since I've been in Slovenia, I would like to participate in it. And then you placed the whole responsibility on me and said, now you chair this meeting. So it was a great confidence that you have in me, and I appreciate that very much. And looking at the speakers today, I realized that this is some kind of a Slovenia club in Delhi, which is visible here. All of you know each other, you have something to do with Slovenia. And so probably all of you know better than what I do about Slovenia, because I was there only for a short period, that is 2000 to 2004. And my work was mostly in Vienna. And Vienna is a tense place for the United Nations because it is the seat of the International Atomic Energy Agency. where at that time we had a peculiar position that as a non-signatory of the NPT, our only friends were Pakistan and Israel. You can imagine how difficult it would be to operate in a situation like that. So I'm afraid I didn't have much time to enjoy myself in Slovenia because most of the time there was something happening in Vienna. But still I managed to go. Our relations were still shaping, and concurrent accreditation is not always very effective in building relations. And that is why I myself suggested to the government of India that we should have a separate mission in Slovenia. And of course, it happened several years after I left, but this is something which has happened, and that's very good. And the relationship, I'm sure, must have grown, and there are in many ways very common. We have very common interests and common responsibilities. The whole tradition of our both being members of the non-aligned movement as part of Yugoslavia for Slovenia. That is what I still remember because I had known many of the Slovenian diplomats and leaders as representatives of Yugoslavia in New York, in Washington, everywhere else. So when I think of Slovenia, I can only think of a paradise. And in my idea of a paradise is a pretty place with mountains all around, a small population, totally peaceful, wonderful monuments, not only historic, but also poets, church bells ringing occasionally, charming golf courses, no political allies, rallies and demonstrations, clean roads and wonderful cuisine, easily accessible from my home in Austria. So my accreditation from Austria to Slovenia was therefore a dream come true. Austria itself was a peaceful and orderly place, and only my work at the International Atomic Energy added tension and excitement to the post. Ljubljana was just 3 hours away, and after every 10th session of the IAEA Board of Governors, I escaped to the peace and tranquility of Slovenia and stayed not in the city, but in the nearby Bled, where President Tito's palace gave us refuge. India's intimate non-aligned movement linkages with former Yugoslavia was still fresh when I was appointed to Slovenia. The uniqueness of Slovenia was that though it left Yugoslavia fairly early, that was one separation which took place without any bloodshed or conflict or even tension. The former diplomats of Yugoslavia with whom I worked at the UN in New York were close comrades, and 2 of them reached dizzy heights in Slovenia after it became independent. The person I remember most is Ambassador Ignat Golub as the permanent representative of Yugoslavia to the United Nations. He was an important figure in the diplomatic community in New York. We characterized our relationship as combative cooperation because our competition was only to do better for each other than others. And there was this gang of 4 in the non-aligned movement: India, Yugoslavia, Algeria, and Cuba. This was the kind of Politburo of the non-aligned movement. So I worked very closely with Mr. Golub and others. And after he returned to independent Slovenia, Golub joined a pensioners' political party and became part of the ruling coalition as the foreign minister. A political party, a position he adorned with great distinction. Another colleague from New York, Danilo Turk, later became president of Slovenia and made it a point to meet me in New Delhi when he was there on a state visit. There was some expectation that he would become the Secretary General of the United Nations, and he was very much an active candidate. But in the United Nations, you can never tell who gets positions and who does not. Golub was my guide and guardian throughout my tenure as ambassador to Slovenia. And he helped me to establish contacts with the high and mighty in Slovenia, including President Milan Kucan. He helped me with only two crises I faced in my 3 years in Slovenia. The first related to a vote in the UN on self-determination. I don't know whether anyone of you is aware that we have a special position on self-determination because of our problem with Kashmir. So though the United Nations Charter says that self-determination is applicable to all countries and people, we do not subscribe to that view because we believe that if self-determination is applied to every country, then there will be no stability in the world. There will be divisions and people will quarrel and so on. And this concern was mostly with big countries like USA or India or China and others, while the European Union countries like Slovenia was very comfortable with this position because they know that nobody is going to break up Slovenia. So they were very attached to this idea that India and some other countries believe that self-determination is applicable only to people under foreign or colonial occupation. As a small country which became independent from Yugoslavia through a process of self-determination, Slovenia has been supportive of the resolution in the third committee, which we opposed. India campaigned actively against the resolution in New York, and I was asked to secure the support of Slovenia for our position. I knew it was not easy, but I made a trip to Slovenia and spoke to Mr. Golub, who knows the mechanics of the UN. And he, of course, told me that the Slovenian position I knew, and he explained the position and said that he would not be able to even abstain from the resolution. So I was very disappointed and told him that my government would expect me to campaign with you, and they know you are a friend of mine, so I hope you'll be able to help us out. He didn't promise anything, but he said he would do his best to help out a friend. But I was delighted to know after the vote that the Slovenian representatives was absent at the time of the vote. He did not want to vote against the resolution. He did not want to abstain on the resolution. But there is a trick in the UN that you can be absent when the vote takes place. You go to the toilet or something at that particular time. And that is also a political statement. So he instructed his officer to do this. And this was widely appreciated in Delhi, that the Slovenian vote did not go for that resolution. In the UN, now you know these small things matter a lot. The other issue was even more delicate. India invited President Milan Kucan to visit India, and we had made all the preparations for the visit, including what he would say on India's candidature as a permanent member of the UN Security Council. This again is a touchy point with Slovenia, Austria, such countries. They do not believe that there should be any increase in the permanent membership of the Security Council. That is their firm belief. Most small countries are of that view. Because if permanent membership is expanded, there is no way that Slovenia will get a seat as a permanent member. So why should they support it? On the other hand, if you increase the non-permanent membership of the Security Council, then also hope to go more often to the Security Council than now. So their position is that expansion, yes, but not expansion of the permanent members of the Security Council. So, but just 2 days before he was to leave for India, my government made a request for postponing the visit on account of some inconvenience. I was very embarrassed. I had already reached Ljubljana to meet the president the next day, to give him the schedule and to talk to him, brief him about the program and all that. Then I landed there and found that this was to be postponed. So again, I went to Mr. Golub, my guardian, and told him I have two options. I would just leave now and say that I had something urgent to do in Austria and convey an apology to the president, because I don't want to face him in a situation like this to tell him, please don't come to India. That was very, very difficult. So, and asked for his advice as to whether I should meet the president or simply return to Vienna after leaving a message. Golub sprang into action, conveyed the news to the president, and said that the president would receive me at the appointed time, the same time that I was supposed to meet him. And I can't tell you how kind he was when I conveyed the news to the president and said that the president would not only receive me, but also graciously accept the decision of the government of India. And he told me that he understood the situation. I looked forward to rescheduling his visit on a mutually convenient date. Sadly, the visit never took place. And that was the very visit that took place when Danilo Turk was the president, and I had the privilege of meeting him in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. The responsibility I had in Ljubljana was a relic of the NAM days, an institute of public enterprises, which was set up when Slovenia was a part of Yugoslavia. And when Slovenia became independent, nobody changed it. Everybody said, let it continue there. What is the issue? Because it is not a non-aligned institute, it is just an institute on public enterprises. So the institute continued in Ljubljana under the leadership of an Indian national. It was always chaired by an Indian national, and India was a major contributor to the institute. So it was I who proposed that Slovenia should take over the institute and prepare the groundwork for it. And Slovenia may have taken it over by now. I have no confirmation, but this may have happened. Concurrent accreditation of ambassadors to neighboring countries is largely ceremonial. And there is very little possibility of doing sustained work during short visits. It was in recognition of Slovenia's importance that India decided to establish an independent mission there with a full-fledged ambassador who must be enjoying her stay in paradise, which my successors in Vienna could not have. So since I did not have much to say about the economic relations or political relations with the two countries, I got Kanchi Batra to agree to have some kind of memoirs, some kind of memories, and some kind of informal exchange of what my experience in Slovenia was. Thank you very much. And I'm very happy I got this opportunity. Thank you. And now, may I turn to Ms. Mateja Vodeb Ghosh, Charge d'Affaires of the Embassy of Slovenia and India, to speak.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Sreenivasan. I must tell you that I had a privilege to meet you while you were ambassador to Slovenia from Vienna, most probably in 2003 when I returned back from Japan. So, and thank you so much for sharing your memories, and thank you for your contribution to the bilateral relations. If you allow me, I would first start with what has Slovenia achieved in these last 30 years, 3 decades since independence. I think we have made quite a big progress in political field, as we already mentioned. After independence, our goal was to become a member of United Nations, which we achieved in May 1992. Then we became a member of NATO and most importantly, European Union in 2004. We became a member of Schengen group, which allows you to travel with the same visa all around Europe, and the member of Eurogroup in 2007. And then we became a member of OECD in 2010. As Ms. Kanchi Batra already mentioned, we had our first presidency, EU presidency, of the Council of European Union in 2008, and now in 2 days will take over for the second time. If we look at the economic developments, we can see quite a big progress achieved in the past 3 decades. We improved our material well-being, standard of living has risen substantially. Just for example, our national GDP in this 30 years has grown by 91%. GDP per capita has increased from 5,100 euros to around 23,000 euros now. Also, the share of population with high education degree has increased from 8.5% to 24.5%. And this, of course, benefits the economy, and it led Slovenia to be able to develop high technology niche products with high added value. Of course, we had a few setbacks. In 1991, when we became independent, we basically lost the Yugoslav market overnight, and we had to search for a new market, but we successfully overcame this in about 2 years. Then, of course, like almost everyone else in the world, in 2009, we faced the financial economic crisis, which lasted for about 4 years. And now, with all the countries in the world, we also have a setback with the pandemics. I must say that the situation has improved in Slovenia now, and the last economic indicators are very positive, and we hope to have a positive economic growth by the end of this fiscal year in December. The prognosis at the moment are above 2% growth, which is actually quite good for Europe. But perhaps what we are most proud of are the social achievements which we have achieved or we have been able to keep. And in that respect, I would like to say that Slovenia is one of the countries with the highest human development index in the world, that it has one of the lowest levels of social and gender inequality, and also that it's one of the safest countries in the world. Recently, there was a World Peace Report issued, the latest one, and Slovenia is ranked 5th in the world. And that also reflects Ambassador Sreenivasan's description that it's a very peaceful and country, like a paradise. And as I mentioned earlier, we are going to have the second presidency to the Council of European Union. We start on 1st of July until the end of December. And we have set 4 priorities for us during that time. The first priority is resilience, recovery, and strategic autonomy of the EU. In that context, of course, the most important task will be the right response to pandemics, the recovery, especially in the field of health, where we will do our best to contribute to building European Health Union. Another side will be also to implement the recovery plans which were adopted by member states as soon as possible, so that we overcome the economic hardships caused by pandemic. In that regard, we will emphasize the green and digital transition. Then under the first priority, we'll also work on cyber resilience, and on climate and energy legislation, which will help us to achieve the goals of reducing greenhouse emissions by 55% by 2030. The second priority will be conference on the future of Europe. Going through all these hardships that Europe has gone in the past years, the conference has already started in May during the Portuguese presidency, and it will continue and conclude during the French presidency, which comes after us. But the main goal of this priority is to get as broader view as possible from European citizens, especially young people, what kind of Europe they want to live in. Then we have the third priority, union of the European way of life, rule of law, and equal criteria for all. As you know, rule of law is an extremely important value that we have in European Union, and we also share with India. And in that context, we will have an annual dialogue in the Council with general debate, where we will debate the state of the rule of law in the European Union in general, and also in each individual state. The fourth and the last priority will be a credible and secure European Union, capable ensuring the security and stability in its neighborhood and in the world. We will follow three main tasks in this category. We would like to pay special attention to the countries in Western Balkans. We believe that the future of Western Balkans is to become part of European Union, and we see it as one of our major activities. Then we will also try to strengthen further transatlantic relations, which has already started during the Portuguese presidency. We intend to continue and strengthen it. And the last task would be strengthening Schengen regime. As you know, this pandemics and migration crisis have put certain restrictions to the Schengen regime. So we want to strengthen it, and in that context, perhaps also make a progress with respect to the migration. And as Ambassador Kumar will not be able to join us today, I would just like to say a few words on bilateral relations with India. Ambassador Sreenivasan very eloquently described his work and his memories of India-Slovenian relations. I would say that, yes, the opening of the embassies, Slovenia opened in 2002, India opened in 2007, has tremendously contributed to strengthening the relations and improving in depth in scope. So, and in that, you can see in the exchange of the visits, we had our Prime Minister here in India on a state visit in 2011. Indian President visited India in September 2019. And which delights me really very much is that we have had a very active political dialogue also on the level of the ministers of foreign affairs. We have, the ministers met in December 2019 in Rome. Then we had a video conference between our two ministers in June 2020. Our minister also contributed participated at the Resina dialogue, unfortunately only virtually, even though he wanted to visit India in person. And we do hope that this dialogue will continue in the future. We see perhaps as the first occasion the upcoming 16th Bled Strategics Forum, which will happen at the 31st of August, 1st and 2nd of September this year. The forum will be mostly focused on the future of Europe, but within this context, a very important panel will take place where they will discuss also the Indo-Pacific strategy. And we truly hope that India will contribute with its own perspective on this question on a high level. So that I would say for today. Of course, open to the questions at the end of this webinar. And thank you once again to the Diplomatist and to Ambassador Sreenivasan. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that excellent review of India-Slovenia relationship. It's a pity that our ambassador in Slovenia is not able to be present today, because I would have liked to hear what other things have happened in the last 15 years since I left Slovenia, but I'll catch up with her some other time. Our next speaker is Dr. Rob Bernard, CEO and co-owner and co-founder of Sensum DOO. And this is a video message, I understand. So may I invite him to deliver his video message?
Thank you for your invitation and an opportunity to present cooperation between Slovenia and India from Sensum company point of view. My talk is structured in 3 topics: the history, the current business, and the future opportunities. Looking back to Sensum history, we can see that by instinct we are following classical scenario in textbooks on successful business development. First step is to develop a good product. Then gain the first references and manage rapid growth. And finally, diversify product portfolio and solidify market position. Innovation is our DNA. We started as scientists in computer vision with huge motivation to deliver high-end products in production floor. Our first customers were established pharmaceutical companies in Slovenia, Sandoz and Krka. They set their quality requirements far above technology limits at that time, thus provided us an opportunity to make things better. And we did. We have responded to challenge and launched the best machine for quality control of tablets and capsules. We have gained the first references. The rapid growth followed quickly, and the pharmaceutical industry in India supported growth intensively, and far more than that. From our partners in India, we learned what are the future industry needs. We combined our established technology-driven R&D with newly established market-driven R&D, and expanded product portfolio with new products, which proved to be a great success in India as well as in other markets. Our business experiences with customers in India are rich and very, very positive. India presents more than 1/4 of business for Sensum, and we are still reinforcing our position. There are 2 major characteristics for that. First, Indian pharmaceutical industry is one of the pillars of the healthcare systems globally. Companies are making huge investments to grow production capacities and, equally important for us, huge investments in quality of products. Second, their management keeps focus on business, but is also open for innovations. They quickly understand the advantages and the added value of innovative devices in production floor for their business. With our commitment and readiness to make an extra mile for our customers, we gained the trust and confidence to develop business relationships into partnerships. I would like to take an opportunity here to express my gratitude to Embassy of India in Ljubljana. They support our activities with our Indian business partners visiting Slovenia, as well as our employees visiting India. Our cooperation in the last 10 years was very successful, and it contributed vastly to our business development in India. And I'm also very grateful to Embassy of the Republic of Slovenia in New Delhi for their support over a decade. Especially during pandemic time, their help is invaluable. We managed to successfully finalize all projects in India in planned scope and time, without being exposed to infections. Thanks again to devoted and cooperative personnel at the Embassy of India and the Embassy of the Republic of Slovenia. From technology view, the artificial intelligence brings lots of potential in quality control. Cosmetic defects are trivial for inspection, but functional defects like tablet coating defects, lamination, illegible engraving, or illegible print are much more demanding for inspection. AI brings many advantages for detection, as well as for more efficient setting up procedures. Another great potential is data integration in Industry 4.0. Our devices measure quality of final product and accumulate big data, which can be utilized for root cause analysis and optimization of production. We are at the end of my talk, and I hope you found it interesting. I wish you a nice day.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Rob Bernard. And now I turn to Mr. Madan Mohan Chakravarti, CEO, MD, and Country Manager. I can't pronounce the name, Iskra Emako. I suppose it is right, India Private Limited. So, Mr. Chakravarti, we are well in time, 3:40, we're supposed to have this talk, so we're exactly there. So, Mr. Chakravarti, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador. So, first of all, thank you all for inviting me. And I think I'm really a different kid in the block, you can say, because all of you have got different kind of experiences. You are from the similar kind of field, and you can talk about history and the culture and the political scenario. And especially when I was hearing the ambassador, it gives me that, because unfortunately or fortunately, I'm a student of engineering and technology, but the history and culture is always a very something very embedded in my mind. And it gives me the entire scenario from 80s onwards, that what has the Slovenia gone through. Coming back to that, when I first landed in Ljubljana and I took a car and I was driving towards Kran, it is 10 to 15 minutes drive. And first time I'm in Ljubljana, I have no idea about the country. Of course, I have visited European countries many a times. What I saw is I'm there in the car, that there is nobody in the road, or very few people, but they're having a gala time, slow time, fantastic time, green on the left, green on the right, and Alps on the right. And that was my first impression, and it was fantastic. And then I landed to the apartment where I was staying. It's a place called Kran. And just for all of your information, the pronunciation is Iskra. So Kran is a city. It's like Jamshedpur. If you go to Jamshedpur and if you ask anyone, everybody's family member work in some of the Tata companies, either in Tata Steel or in Tata Motors or in Tin Plate or in Tata Medical Hospital. Similarly, in Kran, if you ask that, where do you work? So either the answer will be Iskra or Iskra Trail, or it's like that. It was a very big organization once upon a time. And of course, it has, now it has grouped into various segments with the evolution and revolution in the Slovene culture and Slovene economy. And then I started interacting with people. And to tell you about our industry, I'm not going to bore all of you with our technology and industry, but we are into the smart grid system, and we are one of the world leaders. We are very different from many of the companies, and that is something to do with the Slovene culture, which I'll explain. We believe to the core that anybody in this industry is here to collaborate, not to compete. So our solution, our technology can be used by any of our competition, and any of our competitors' technology can be used with our technology. That means our customers, they are not a hostage. It's not like if you buy a car from, I'm just giving an example, like, I'm not talking about Fiat or something. It's like, to make it very simple for all of you, you can buy a car from Renault with a Fiat engine, with a Citra gearbox, with some seating arrangement from Porsche. It's like that. So we believe in that kind of functionality and flexibility. We started our Indian journey in 2019 and in 1.5 years of pandemic definitely slowed down, but we are the fastest company in India. We have all requisite certificates to start business. And the third thing is we are going to change the way Indian smart grid industry with our technology, with our sustainability. Now here I come to a few specific things which basically is directly related to the DNA of our solution. One is sustainability. Of course, all of you have been to Slovenia, and to all the spectators, if any of you, once land in Slovenia, what you'll find is sustainability, and they believe in that. It's injected. It is not in the talk, it is not in the behavior, but it is everywhere. It's slightly long term. It's like, we'll not use something which is a use and throw, and that culture, any product, any solutions, any engineering item that you see, these are all sustainable. It has got a life. That is one very important thing. And that you can see in the roads, in the kind of food. And the second thing I must say, I don't know why people are talking about that. And of course, we will say the Slovene food. Don't forget Slovene wine also. And it has got, since Slovenia shares their boundary with the Italy in one side, of course, Croatia on the other side, Austria on the other side, and many, it's a so outstanding, mixture of culture, food heritage, wine heritage, and music. Can also get Croatian music, which is normally, we call it bluegrass. In the seaside they play, that influence of that in Slovene culture. Overall, it's a place to be in. Please go. Similar to all my European friends here and Slovene friends, what you do not get in Slovenia, if you drive 3 hours or you cycle 3 hours on one side, you go to Lake Blade or some lake. You go to the other side, you go to mountain. Okay. What you don't get in Slovenia is chaos. Now, that is a fantastic thing when you talk about the India-Slovenian culture, because now we are in the industry of IoT. Things are getting, we call it connected intelligence. Now, connected intelligence needs to deal with peace on one side and how to keep the peace in an exceptionally chaotic world. And there the Indians come in. When we grew up in the 90s, there's sometimes it will be no power. Mr. Bagari is from Calcutta, so there was always a power cut 3 to 4 hours or 10 hours a day. Water is not there, but still we have to study, and also we have to play guitars, we have to do things, we have to do that. And we grew up in chaos, and that is something embedded in our system. So when these two industries, they match with each other, the ideas, as Smilia was saying, high-tech industries, exceptionally value-added industries, and when they need the things to be deployed and created, when someone needs to think about a bigger culture in a bigger umbrella kind of thing with many other non-related inputs from various fields, and that happens when you grow up in a chaotic world. It's a good thing. It's a very, and that's the reason you'll find many of the Indians are in the top of organizations which deal with chaos, like Microsoft, Google, data flowing from all directions. So this is one area, and not only in technology, I think in agriculture, India, we have got vast lands, but we are not that systematic when you talk about bee culture. Whenever you go to Slovenia, what mesmerizes me, the way they have cultivated the beekeeping industry. Okay. Don't think that this is the only example I'm giving. I'm just trying to give one example. So like this, anything, usage of technology in agriculture, in farming, in this, and also the usage of technology in machines, making things automatic. We need to learn a lot of things from Slovenia. And at the same time, when ultimately you need to create something with inputs from various directions, and there Indians are really playing a very good game along with the Slovenians to come out with the world leading products and services. So this is more or less I have, and of course I'm waiting for the question and answer session, so I'm trying to curtail my discussion here, but I think many questions will be asked on industry and what can be done. So thank you very much again, and over to you, Ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chakrabarti. Now we have 4 honorary consuls of Slovenia. I did not realize we had so many honorary consuls in India. Generally, Ministry of External Affairs policy is not to allow too many offices of foreign consuls and honorary consuls to be opened in India. But obviously, Slovenia is a different category altogether. So they must have been very open about it. Otherwise, there are some concerns. When the embassy is not there, an honorary consul can sometimes be a bit of a problem. And that is why the Government of India is a bit reluctant to open too many consulates. But I'm glad to see that you have it in Bangalore, you have in Chennai, you have in Calcutta, you have in Mumbai. All well organized. So let me turn to our honorary consul of Slovenia in Bangalore, Mr. Venkatraman Ravichander. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Ambassador Sreenivasan. Thank you, Kanchi Diplomatist, for organizing this event. And thank you, Madan, for making part of my task easy about Indo-Slovenian trade. And the fact that we have in 4 cities honorary consuls, sir, is partly, I think, being a small country, it helps them reach a wide country like India through this partnership. And I guess the fact that the MEA allowed it is a sign of the closeness of Indo-Slovenian ties, and we are grateful for that. In terms of, I am basically going to give you a sense of Indo-Slovenian trade. Now, the size of the total annual trade is about 350 million euros. And the 350 million euros has imports of about 230 million and exports out of Slovenia of about 120 million. So when we look at the imports of 230 million into Slovenia, that is roughly, India forms about 1.4% of total imports into Slovenia. And the main items that they typically import are, I mean, if you go by the HSN code, the medicaments, heterocyclic compounds, coffee, vehicle accessories, chemicals, and the like. And when we come to export, which is about 120 million euros annually, which is about 1% of their total exports. Here too, typically you have antibiotics, you have flat rolled products, paper, paperboard. You again have heterocyclic compounds of another nature, which is exported out. Now, while Slovenia is a small country, relatively speaking, in the context of these trade relationships, in Asia, the relationship, the size of the Indo-Slovenian trade is second after with China. And one would think that countries like Japan and South Korea might feature higher, but the reality is that the trade relationship with India is second in Asia. So that's a sense of what's happening on the import-export front. The biggest importers are Lek and Krika. And again, on the exporter side, the Lek is the biggest exporter. Moving on to the next thing, which is really investments, Slovenian companies in India and Indian companies in Slovenia. So when you look at Slovenian companies in India, they are either here through JV or sometimes they could be here on their own. But many of them start the partnership through a distributorship kind of thing, test the waters before moving on to a JV arrangement or deciding whether they need to come on their own. Mr. Madan Mohan represents one of the companies out there, which he spoke to us about, the smart grid, the Iskra Meko. Some of the other companies, just to give you a sense of the names and the area, there's Letrica Male, which is in automobiles based in Coimbatore. There is 7 Refractories with Dalmia based in Madhya Pradesh. Then there is Bosio SRB, which is in the area of industrial ovens. There is a company, Geoportal in Delhi, which is in the area of civil engineering. And then there is Kirka based in Bangalore, which is in the area of pharma API. And the gentleman, Dr. Bernard that we heard, which is Sensum, which is there in the area of pharma, just to give you a sense of some of the companies that exist in India. At the same time, if you look at Indian companies in Slovenia, there are markedly less. In fact, the examples of Indian mainline companies being in Slovenia outside the typical IT services and IT companies that tend to have an operation to service that market. Overall, there is an example of a waste energy company that is there in Selje, which is an Indian company out there. And you have some individuals, particularly in the area of wellness. There's been some little chat also about Ayurveda and whether Ayurveda in terms of but Ayurveda is popular in Slovenia, notwithstanding the challenges of certification and the like. In the wellness industry, yoga, etc., you do find individual Indians who are actually involved in offering those kind of services. I'm recently aware of a Bangalore company which has a sports academy here, which has just set up a sports venture in Slovenia. And he was actually telling me that in training football goalkeepers, Slovenia is considered to be the best training ground for those who wish to become football goalkeepers. So that is just another piece of trivia. Moving on in terms of how does one expand this whole network of Indo-Slovenian trade. On population and area, being based in Bangalore, when people ask me to explain Slovenia, I normally say it is 1/5 the size of Bangalore, roughly a population of about 2 million. It is 25 times the size of Bangalore. Bangalore is about 800 kilometers. This is square kilometers. That's about 20,000 square kilometers. Has over 60% green in terms of the environment friendliness and the sustainability that Madan spoke about. And Mateja earlier had mentioned a high per capita of almost about 23,000 euros, almost 1/4 of the country educated in higher education. And the other striking thing is very high degree of comfort with English. So really there's a dual language system out there in Slovenia. Now in terms of, given the size and the nature, clearly what makes sense for a country like Slovenia is to be in the high-tech area, to be in high value-added products. It doesn't make sense to be in commodities and the like for the size that they have got. And later on, Mr. Bagaria will be talking about some of the areas, but of late there's a lot of interest in artificial intelligence, robotics, and a whole lot of tech areas of that kind. Historically, I mean, they've always been strong in water. In fact, if we go back to the erstwhile Yugoslavia, one of our earliest relationship was the import of hydro turbines and hydroelectric plant know-how. A lot of it were really of Yugoslav origin historically. So water management is another area where there's a fair amount of, and anything which is on the sustainability theme and environment friendly, they are an automatic fit. In fact, their ability to do some of the high-tech stuff is amazing. The lightest aircraft in the world which traveled around the world was based out of Slovenia. So there's a very strong high-tech association with Slovenia does. The last point I'd like to make is typically when you want to promote this kind of trade, you need to build awareness, and typically, forums and the like become a good basis. Typically, companies that have invested in India and companies or people who have invested in Slovenia coming together as a forum is a nice way to go about it. There is the Slovenian Business Chamber of Commerce, and then I think in India there's been a fair amount of collaboration, particularly with FICCI, in putting together trade delegations. But normally what we have noticed is, especially when you want to get some partnerships going, you don't need to boil the ocean. Finally, you need to find the target company which fits your needs in the country. So if a Slovenian company is looking either at a distributor arrangement or a joint venture in India, it is more a micro search of the right partner that is likely to yield the success, rather than a general thing of just a little trade delegation talking and going back. Focused efforts tend to give you better results in terms of putting such partnerships together. And sometimes this can also be helped by some kind of an umbrella branding as to what does Slovenia stand for people in the Indian business community, and what does India stand for in the Slovenian business community. That kind of umbrella branding normally helps. So that really brings me to an end, and as the others said, would be happy to take any questions that we get down the line. With that, back to you, Ambassador Sreenivasan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Venkataraman Ravichandar, Honorary Consul in Bangalore, all perfectly on time. Now it is 4 o'clock, and that is time for Mr. Amit Goyal, Honorary Consul of Slovenia in Chennai. Mr. Goyal.
Thank you, Ambassador Sreenivasan. Good afternoon to all, and good morning to those connecting from Europe. I have the pleasure of traveling to Slovenia, this little paradise, on many occasions, and I take this opportunity to congratulate the people of Slovenia on the occasion of the 30th anniversary of the statehood of Slovenia. I am here to speak on Port of Koper, entry point of cargo from India. Now, Port of Koper was established in the year of 1957. The port has steadily grown since then and grown to many folds. It has now become one of the largest ports in the Adriatic, handling a total volume of 24 million tons, which consists mainly nearly about 1 million TEUs of containers, 617,000 units of cars per annum, and 4.3 tons of liquid cargo, and about 1.3 tons of general cargo also it is handling. The port has created tremendous infrastructure to handle all these cargoes. But for the small country of this size, they don't need these cargoes. They don't need so much of commodities. What is that? That is something very interesting. Let me continue here. Port of Koper has handled about 4,066 ships in 2018. I am not talking about 19 and 2020 as it is, slightly hampered due to the pandemic. But let's talk about 2018. This was a golden year for Port of Koper. So they've handled about 4,000 plus ships in 2018, carrying various cargoes in and out of port. And passenger ships accounting to 454, approximately 1.5 ship a day. Out of this, they have handled 24 million tons of cargo, out of which 16.4 million tons is import cargo and 6.2 million tons is exports. This volume, out of this volume, 41% of the cargo is bulk cargo, 30% is containers, and 23% is in form of liquid bulk. Port has created all the necessary infrastructure like warehouses, the, liquid tanks, liquid tank parks, and container vehicle parking areas to handle these volumes they are handling. See, Port of Koper is a domestic port of Slovenia. However, it serves mainly as a transit point, wherein 2/3 of the cargo that the port is handling gravitates to the markets of Central and Eastern Europe. This is because the port has a very strategic location and its connectivity both in terms of rail and road. Koper Port is very well connected with the expressway, which defines the ease of road transport. Koper Port is also very well connected by rail network and is presently handling 21 to 23 trains per day. Port is presently operating on a single track. However, the second railway track is adopted by the Slovenian government to run between Koper and Davica, expected to come into operation by late 2025. The second track will enhance the capacity of the port and rail movement tenfolds and is projected to increase the capacity of rail movement to 230 trains a day. This is the futuristic project the port is taking up, keeping in mind the expected growth in volumes. Presently, transit of cargo is shared by rail to road in a ratio of 58 to 42%. Koper Port is well connected to Central and Eastern European countries through dedicated corridors. We have the Baltic, the Adriatic corridor connecting Germany, Poland, and other inland destinations in the Baltic region. Recently, Port of Koper has been connected with München, the Bavarian capital, through rail network, in understanding with Maersk with the bi-weekly train service. Second is the Amber corridor, connecting Austria, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and other northeastern countries. Again, recently, Port of Koper has been connected with Melnich near Prague through rail network, enhancing its projected network area. The third is the Alpine Western Balkan corridor, connecting Hungary, Croatia, Bosnia, and other Balkan countries. And lastly, the Mediterranean corridor, connecting the Port of Koper to Eastern Italy. Such explicit network gives the trade various benefits in terms of transit time and cost effectiveness. When comparing the movement of cargo from India to Europe, the transit time is shortened by 7 days when the cargo is handled through the Port of Koper, instead of traditional northwestern European ports of Antwerp, Rotterdam, and Hamburg. The saving is about 2,000 nautical miles in transit. This gives direct benefit of lower costs, shorter transit time, and indirect benefit of burning lesser fuel and more friendly environment. In today's production scenario, manufacturing hubs have stopped keeping stocks of inventory and are relying on the concept of just in time. This reduces the investment, which can be channeled into the other activities depending upon their priorities. Manufacturing units believe in transporting their inventory in time to sustain continuous production. For such activities, Port of Koper plays a vital role, as it not only shortens the transit time, but due to connectivity by both rail and road, it ensures the commodity reaches just in time. I believe Indian exporters will benefit from shipping their cargo to the Central and Eastern European countries using the route of transit via the Port of Koper. And it has to be marketed by the various shipping lines in conduit with Port of Koper to realize this among the trade benefits. I have this to say, and I once again wish all the Slovenians on the occasion of this 30th anniversary, and I give it back to you, Ambassador Sreenivasan.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you spoke about Koper. It was developing dramatically when I was there. I went to visit, but it was still in a formative stage. But I was told that it had tremendous potential in terms of cutting down the time and fuel once this port comes into full steam. And that is something a small country can do to support larger countries. So now we turn to the Honorary Consul of Slovenia in Kolkata, Mr. S.S. Bagaria. You have the floor, sir.
Good afternoon to all. At the outset, I must thank Kanchi Batra to organize this wonderful event, where we all come together and share our views for India and Slovenia, jointly getting together more and more. Slovenia has its strengths in high technology, research, innovation, smart solution, precision tools, manufacturing. India is now running in 21st century, and due to our amplified technology and artificial intelligence, a progression can help both research and startup partnership between both India and Slovenia. Our Prime Minister slogan is also Made in India, Clean India, Startup India, Digital India. Intellectual capital is considered to be key asset of any enterprise in today's developing knowledge-intensive and informative environment. The automotive industry is based on new knowledge, international cooperation, human resource development, and innovation. For instance, Renault, owned by French, installed in Slovenia, the only car manufacturer and prime Slovenian exporter, ranks them high among renowned vehicles, renowned for their uncompromising quality. India, on the other hand, has its own house automobile companies like Tata, Mahindra, which at present are manufacturing good quality of SUVs, passenger cars, and commercial vehicles. Automobile industry, especially automotive components, is one of the flagship sector of Slovenian economy. Slovenians are proud to say that almost every car in the world has been built in at least some part made in Slovenia. Even in India, Mahindra cars have Slovenian part in it. It is also present in India with one joint venture, Electric Mahindra in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. I am sure that a new era of electrical vehicles production will also bring new business opportunities for both sides. Slovenia has a highly digitalized and technically extremely powerful, can explore the various possibilities in our Indian industries and exchange high-end technologies. With proper training and execution of process and project management, Indian automobile industry merged with Slovenian technology can superhead and achieve many milestones. Another area which can be highlighted is Slovenian infrastructure for inland transport of goods, modern port infrastructure, reliable electricity and gas supply. It is increasing number of connectivity through roads, ports, airports, bridges, etc. has made a landmark in EU map. I think in India, waterways are also being used for the transportation of goods and tourism. So I think Slovenia has got a good scope for development of this area in India. The Indian government is very keen to develop, and they have, our infrastructure has to be world class by 2030. I believe the Slovenian industries or the businessmen may not like to invest in India, but they can share their engineering technologies and other things for our infrastructure projects so that it can be win-win situation for both the countries. Slovenia may not have very big construction companies, but they could contribute for building our physical infrastructure. For example, there is a Slovenian company doing the planning of tunnel in Indore. I think such types of many projects can be conceived in India, and Indian government is very open in infrastructure development, and our Minister for Road and Highways, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, is very promising person, and he is open to any idea, and he can discuss across the table to any businessman, any industry representative. So there is an ample scope in infrastructure development in India. India is already very strong in IT, and our professionals and the companies are almost exporting throughout the world. But nevertheless, Slovenia is also very strong in high technologies, whether it is a digital, electrical, or engineering. So those parts can also be considered to be exchanged in between. India is also spending a lot of money for development of airports, construction of new seaports, dry ports, bridges, canals. So infrastructure contribution from Slovenia can be a major area which can develop the trade and benefit both the countries. Slovenia has highly efficient, educated, and hardworking people. So as India has high knowledge people. Like at the moment, if you see in all the US companies, maximum Indian people are in the helm of affairs. So both companies can exchange and get the people from each one for human resources development, which can benefit of both the countries. In education also, Slovenian universities and Indian universities, exchange between Faculty of Economy of University in Slovenia and Sarda University in India. There are quite a few PhD Indian students studying a very renowned Slovenian research institute, Joseph Steger. As one of the fellow will talk on the boutique place of the hotel, I think, Mr. Sanjay Patel after me. I would not like to touch on that subject, but I have visited Slovenia and I found that they lack in hospitality sectors, being a very good, I think it is to my mind, it is better than Switzerland for the beauty and the environment and the cost to leisure. But we do not find very good hotels there. 5-star, what we call world-class hotels. India has developed very good hotels, and our prominent brands like Taj, Indian Hotels, and Oberoi, which are Indian brands. There are many hotels all over the world. So I think this is a scope for Slovenia also to get some good hotels, and people are ready to spend as much as money, because luxury and the leisure is now more focused area for the people. So that will definitely aid to the tourism in Slovenia. I am privileged to be the Honorary Consul of the Slovenia in Calcutta. I always try to assist the people to promote the trade and tourism for Slovenia. Now I request Mr. Sreenivasan to take over the matter.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Now we go to our final speaker. We are still on time. Mr. Sanjay Kantilal Patel, Honorary Consul General of Slovenia in Mumbai. We can't do without Mumbai. So let's ask Mr. Sanjay Kantilal Patel to speak.
Good evening, Ambassador Sreenivasan. Good evening to all the people on this talk, and good day to anybody who's on this talk from any other part of the world. I will be speaking to you today on why Slovenia has been known as the Green Boutique destination. We have heard of cities and locations all over the world being known as green destinations. But Slovenia was the first country in the world in 2016 to be known and declared as the green destination in the world. Not only was the country declared as a destination, but even its capital, Ljubljana, was also declared as the first European green capital in 2016. To qualify as a green destination, there are many aspects which have to be followed. Destination management, nature, animals and scenery, environment and climate, cultural and tradition, social well-being, and business and hospitality. These are further broken up into nearly 50 additional criteria. It is amazing to note that Slovenia scored a 96 on these criteria. And thus it earned the first country in the world to be declared as a green destination. Let's talk about what made this possible. One of the biggest advantages that Slovenia has, that because of its size of its population, they have decided that nearly 60% of their land mass will be kept green. This conservation of the land and creation of national forests, especially the Triglav National Forest, which is now declared as a UNESCO site, has enabled it to have the best air quality and cleanliness in the atmosphere. They've also managed to harness all their water resources. They have large glacial lakes and natural springs. If anyone, I'm sure Mr. Chakravarti has spoken about it, and Ambassador, you too have been to Slovenia, you will note that anywhere you go, you get potable water in the fountains in all the cities. Very few countries in the world offer this. This is only possible because they've taken care of the environment and ensured that they can get this potable water piped into their different cities. Not only do they use this water for their drinking purposes, but they manage to harvest and use this water as a sustainable energy provider. Most of the energy in Slovenia is generated from this water source.
Hydel.
Hydel energy. The other thing is also to note is that the care for the environment. If you go into Slovenia, you will see that Mr. Chakravarti spoke about it, that you see green slopes on one side and the Alps on the other side. It's very interesting to see that whichever part you go, whether it's from Bled, which is, I think, one of the most picturesque places in the world, one of the most popular places for European people to go and get married in. That's, I think, the most known place for Europe. It's what would you call this? The Alps, on the Julian Alps, also help in creating the different kinds of climate that they have. In Slovenia, which is very unique, is that you can get from the green slopes, the town of Piran, which you can go to the Adriatic Sea, and you have the Kranjska Gora area, which you can go ski in. So not only in the day you can go and enjoy a walk through a forest, you can go for a swim in the Adriatic Sea, and you can go up to the mountains to go and ski. It's very few places that allow you to do all three activities in the same day. The other thing which Slovenia has managed to do is the sustainable tourism. If you see that Mr. Bagaria was saying that he found that the hotels in Slovenia were lacking in star quality. But what they lack in star quality, they definitely make up in hospitality. If you go into any hotel in Slovenia, whether it's in the cities like Maribor, Ljubljana, or Portorož, or Bled, or then go into the glamping sites which are in Kranjska Gora and in the plains, they have some amazing locations which we can really enjoy. And not only that, they're also environmentally friendly because they make sure that they take care of all the wastewater management and things like that. Let us talk about the cities now which are there in Slovenia. Ljubljana, I think it's one of the most charming capitals in the world. It has a huge no car zone in the center. Very few capitals have managed to have no car zones in the center of the city. It has what we have CNG in India. They have methane transport only in the city center. No fuel guzzling cars or buses are allowed into the city. And one of the most important things which they do in the city to attract tourism and to keep people coming into the city is they have this summer festival, which they showcases different talent from all over the world by having these open air orchestra performances, theater performances, and jazz concerts. Another city that worth mentioning is Maribor. It's one of the city which is known for its wine. It's the best region where you can sample some of the best Rieslings, which are based on the German wines. They have an enormous wine cellar which has got the best varieties of wine called the Vinag Wine Center. During winter, the slopes around Maribor, which is Honorary, are also known for their skiing. I've already spoken to you about Bled. Bled is also a UNESCO protected site. On the southwestern tip of Slovenia is Piran. Piran is on the coast of the Adriatic Sea, small in size, but very quaint because it was originally actually a part of the Venetian Empire for more than 5 centuries. If you go to Piran, you can explore the city by visiting its town square and the church, and also have a leisurely lunch in many of the restaurants along the seaside. And if you feel like it, also hop over the pier for a swim in the Adriatic Sea. Slovenians, the Julian Alps are also a limestone formation. And in these limestone formations, the karst region, will find the Postojna caves. These caves are the most extensive cave system in the world. It is nearly a staggering 20 kilometers of caves, chambers, hallways, and galleries, which are deep into the mountainside. When you enter the caves, you'll see some of them have ceilings which are more than 150 feet high. And they have to facilitate this movement into the caves. They have a train system, which is the largest cave system, train system in a cave in the world. The other areas which one can visit in Slovenia is also the Triglav National Park. This is the largest national park in Slovenia and is a symbol of national symbol for Slovenia. The Triglav mountain is also there on its flag. In the Triglav mountains, you'll also have the lakes which branch out into the 2 rivers which flow through Slovenia, the Socha and the Sava. These two, one of these 2 rivers exit into the Danube in Hungary, and the other one into the Adriatic Sea. In the Triglav National Park area, they have the Kranjska Gora area, which is in winter becomes a European ski destination. Most of the European people from Southern Europe will prefer to go to the slopes around Kranjska Gora because not only are the slopes beautiful, for skiing in powder snow, but also because it's much more economical than any of the destinations in Austria and France. The other areas in Slovenia which are well known is the Istrian region for its wines. I don't know if some of you must have had the opportunity to taste some of the wines there. They're excellent wines of Slovenia. Unfortunately, most of these vineyards make the quantity of wine that they make is so small that they don't have enough to export in different parts of the world. And they mainly consume within the country itself or in the other parts of Europe, mainly in the Schengen areas. For those who have not been to Slovenia, I would urge you to go there and look at its natural beauty and visit it. And that's it. And I have back over to you, Ambassador Sreenivasan.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I think we have come to an agreement that Slovenia is actually a piece of paradise in Central Europe. On that, there is no disagreement. All of us came to that same conclusion. I'm happy that I started off that trend. But you went beyond all that. We had a very good picture of what Slovenia means to us and what we can learn from them. I heard that there is some kind of competition between India and Slovenia on software. I don't know whether it's true now, but I was told that sometimes there could be some competition on that. And certainly there was a competition on the copper port, because we are also in the process of developing our ports. But all this has not stopped us from working closely, because the people are so nice and we are able to deal with them. So it's a very small country, but from what I heard today, I realized that it is a friendship which we must value. Well, I have not seen a more disciplined speakers list, because normally the chairman has to keep on reminding that the time is up. But today we have reached 4:30 p.m. with all the speakers, and then you have 10 minutes for question and answers. I don't even think that it is necessary, because all the questions have been answered. But still, if there are any questions, you are most welcome, and one of the speakers will answer you. Are there any questions in the chat box? Kanchi?
Ambassador, we have been answering those questions as we saw them. We have been answering many of the questions.
Yes.
Earlier, the consolidated questions which was sent on email.
As I said, it was a complete exposition on Slovenia and India, and all the questions have been answered. So we don't have to worry that we have no questions to answer. Two things I noticed I missed out. One is Ayurveda. I'd forgotten that. In fact, a doctor from Kerala, who is actually a famous surgeon, and he converted himself to an Ayurveda doctor rather than a traditional medicine practitioner. And his wife used to conduct classes in yoga. And whenever we went to Slovenia, we used to spend some time with them. They had a fabulous place for people to come and practice yoga and Ayurveda. The second thing is the Indian cultural profile, because there are quite a few Indians who practice, because Indians, wherever we go, we always stick to our own traditions. And I've been to several get-togethers and ceremonies where the Indians gave us the best of Indian food, the best of Indian puja, Indian music, and all that. So I should not have forgotten these two things. But that shows that we have a lot to learn. We have a lot to understand from this small country. And we'll be able to work with Slovenia in the future. So if there are no more questions, may I conclude?
May we have the concluding remarks from all the speakers?
No, I would just perhaps like to emphasize the very good relations that we have with India. I think in the past few years, they have really developed tremendously. And I do think that India ranks very high also on the agenda of European Union. I think efforts are done on both sides that we strengthen cooperation and we contribute to, to multipolar world. So that's what I would say about bilateral relations. And when it comes to Slovenia, I would just like to say that it's truly, you may consider me biased, but it's truly a paradise on earth, especially for me during the summer. And it's the sustainability, like some speakers said, it's really part of our genes. So we are raised with it. They teach us in school. I still remember when I went to primary school. Every year, one day in a year, we had to go around and collect all the garbage everywhere. So, it developed now, and our country is very clean country. And another thing which I think gives the quality of life, somebody mentioned the agriculture, but what is very special about Slovenia, that almost, especially if you live in the countryside, which the majority of people do because it's such a compact country, that every house has a small vegetable garden. So we produce a lot of food at home. Like my parents, they have potatoes, they have beans, they have onions, they have garlic, tomatoes. So we live a very healthy lifestyle, and we also like sports. Perhaps everybody knows Luka Doncic from NBA. We are good in basketball. We are semi-good in football, very good in cycling. So we are also very active people. So we like sports. So it's a good quality of life in Slovenia, I would say. Thank you.
Mr. Chakravarti.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, very short. Okay, no point of repeating things, but cycling, before this pandemic, now due to the pandemic, we find everywhere people are cycling. But in Slovenia, whenever you go, especially in the summer, you'll find the people are taking, they point A to point B, they take 3 hours to go because they're climbing up and then they're climbing down with cycles. And every kid, they're into cycling. And also one more thing I'll tell, Slovenia is very good in sports. That means, suppose especially many tennis stars from India, they go to Slovenia, somebody touched with the football goalkeeper. Like if you have any difficulty in your wrist, then there are 2-3 world-renowned coaches in Slovenia who help you to unlearn the wrong grip so that you can start with a new grip. And we all know how difficult it is to unlearn things. And there are coaches in Slovenia. If any of the spectators or audience is into sports, do please remember that it is a study material in Slovenia. They do it, they practice it, and they take it in their heart, sports, and they will help you to rectify. So again, wonderful country, wonderful food. Don't forget olive oil. People talk about olive oil in Greece and Italy. Slovenia got this award 3 times in a row. So again, over to all of you. Visit Slovenia.
I must just mention, when 6-7 years ago, when I was, the former Indian ambassador there suggested that I should consider being the honorary consul, my first reaction was, sir, I need to see the map to find out where it is. But since then, I have been totally sold. I mean, I've been there now multiple times, totally sold about the beauty of the country, the friendliness of the people. And I tell people that also, it's this side of the mountain, Switzerland, it's Switzerland at half the price. So in a fullest sense, I mean, apart from the gains of sustainability and the like, it's an absolutely amazing place. And whether you want to reach there from Vienna or Venice or from Munich, in some case, it's almost like a triangle where it's very easy to get into Slovenia. And the last thing I just want to mention, especially with the Olympics around the corner, the Slovenian performance in the Olympics, if you see the medals won, particularly the Winter Olympics, related to per capita, like we have per capita GDP, the per capita medal winning by Slovenia also is something that is worth emulating. So I would strongly, it's off the beaten track. Traditionally, there are traditional places when you want to go overseas, you tend to go there. Increasingly, you're finding film crews wanting to go to Slovenia because it's off the beaten track as a destination for film crews and the like. Strongly recommended, and it's really lovely.
Yes, Your Excellency, I would like to conclude also here. I have traveled to Slovenia on many, many occasions, sometimes even twice a year, because I found it very peaceful and very live over there. It's a bit of a slow country, life is very relaxed, but probably that's what I like. In fact, my son did his internship, a 6 weeks internship in Slovenia, and we spent 6 weeks over there. So that was the highlight. I have traveled Slovenia from, from Bohin to Maribor, everywhere. Probably I know Slovenia better than Slovenians also. I can boast to say that. Mr. Chakraborty, you were talking about cars. I'll tell you what I did. I happened to meet one guy over there, and he was driving the Volkswagen Polo, a small Volkswagen car. It was electric. I said, Volkswagen doesn't make electric cars. He says, no, I converted it to electric. I said, okay, can you do that for me? He said, why not? And you know what I did? I sent my Tata Nano to Slovenia and got it converted to electric and brought it back to India. Unfortunately, it is still stuck in customs because they got the better of it and they are still holding it. They are deciding on the duty to pay. So once they do, I get it out and I drive it out. But for me, Slovenia has been very good and amazing place. The boutique wines, what they have, everybody making 30,000 bottles, 40,000 bottles, 50,000 bottles, just about 15 to 20% than what they can sell. They don't want to keep huge stocks because they don't know what to do with it then. The country is small. The wine is the main, I'll tell you, staple course. But still, and with so many vineyards, everybody practically making his own wine. I always stayed in vineyards. I happen to know there are about 175, farmhouses and vineyards where they allow homestay. And they have got lovely places to stay at very, very affordable prices. I am sure the embassy can give those details to whoever would be interested. Go there, easy access, easy movement, enjoy it. For me, it is the best. Today, I'm stuck because I can't travel because of COVID. I don't know what kind of restrictions will be there. But believe me, I long to go back there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we have reached our time, 4:40 p.m. So may I thank everyone for the participation, the whole participation, a full sense of the term, sharing your thoughts about Slovenia. And I learned a lot about what Slovenia is like today, because I left in 2004 and many things have happened since then. So I was happy to catch up with Slovenia. And I just have to wait for the pandemic to end so that I can make another trip to Slovenia. So thank you very much. Thank you, Kanchi, for asking me to chair this session. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I also had the opportunity to see, as I said, the Slovenian club in India.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste to all.